With several TV shows and video games over the years, plenty of amazing characters have entered the Batman canon through less than typical means. Most of the biggest Bat characters of course got their starts in the comics, but some found their way to that medium through other adaptations that, to varying degrees, have enriched the Caped Crusaders world. I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are the 10 best Batman characters that didn't come from the comics. Number 10. Mr. Freeze. Aha, I know what you're saying, but Ewan, Mr. Freeze has been in the comics years before he was in a different medium, and you know what? You're only technically right. The worst form of being right. Everyone knows that. You see, Mr. Freeze fits perfectly for this list in actuality because his current persona that is now so iconic didn't come from the comics. No, prior to Batman the Animated Series, Mr. Freeze was a complete joke character, one who DC even saw fit to have executed by the Joker. That's how disposable they thought of him. But Betas, ever brilliant, saw the potential there for a truly tragic and poetic villain. In the episode Heart of Ice, Paul Dini reimagined Victor Freeze as a scientist who fell victim to his greedy science company, and one who did the evil things he did to try and save the life of his wife Nora, who was diagnosed with an incurable illness. The DC animated universe's Freeze is completely unrecognizable compared to the joke character he was before. He's essentially a whole new character, and a testament to the enduring brilliance of Warner Animation's 90s era efforts. Number 9. King Tut. King Tut is one of those characters who could have been much darker had his debut been inked onto the page rather than in the 1960s TV series. In fact, they even rebooted him for the comics with a much more villainous edge. In the comic book version, he constructs elaborate Egyptian-esque riddles relying on mythology and hieroglyphic imagery. Riddler, irritated that his shtick is being intruded on, even teams up with Batman to take him down. Although his original version isn't quite as engaging as this, without the TV version we never would have gotten that sprawling narrative. Anyway, in the Adam West show, he's struck on the head by a rock, and when he awakens, he believes himself to be the reincarnation of Tutankhamun. Likely because of this brain injury, King Tut's emotions fluctuate over time. This unpredictability never reaches the heights of Joker or even Riddler, but is entertaining nonetheless. His style of speech, laced with monologues on Egyptian history, was interesting too, though it would have gotten old had he stuck around any longer. Number 8. The Music Meister. Music Meister debuted on the Cartoon Network series Batman the Brave and the Bold and is suitably silly. His power is hypnosis via singing ability, a power that's quirky enough and easily adaptable to keep his story ticking along quite nicely. The costume changes to fit with different musical eras is a nice touch too, which shows the love that's gone into his design. Given the Brave and the Bold's penchant for utilizing DC's deep cast, Music Meister comes up against a few heroes before Batman eventually takes him down. Aquaman, Black Canary, Green Arrow, and a few more minor supers are all entranced by his voice during his master plan. Batman is eventually able to use Black Canary Sonic Screech against Music Meister, which is a nice piece of synergy. After all of that, his ending is the perfect amount of goofy. Batman knocks him out with a single punch. Like a few villains on this list, the casting is as important as anything else, and in Neil Patrick Harris, they absolutely nailed it. His comedic timing is impeccable, and his voice walks that tightrope between smug and whiny perfectly. Number 7. Egghead. He might not be the most threatening villain in Batman's rogues gallery, but Egghead brings some absolutely golden moments to the table. Having debuted in the 1960s Adam West-led TV show, it took him until 1992 to surface in the comics, and even then that was only for a brief cameo. The general idea behind him as the world's smartest criminal certainly has potential, but his longevity is severely dampened with the constant connection to eggs. They're not really the most malleable, and they're neither cool nor threatening. I don't even care if Gordon Ramsay rebrands as some kind of assassin. There's no way you make eggs cool in that way. His arsenal is one of the kookiest of any villain. His tear gas eggs are particularly weird. He didn't manufacture them in a lab. They're the product of chickens raised on a diet of onions. Yeah, no, sorry, Jules? Jules, get Jules on the phone. He's our delegate to the United Council of Bald Men, and I have a complaint to make. What do you mean he isn't available? Number 6. The Grey Ghost. The Grey Ghost is a memorable enough character in his own right, but the fact he's voiced by Adam West only sweetens the deal. West famously was the first live-action Batman in the 1960s TV show, and returns here to voice one of the heroes who inspired Bruce Wayne in the animated series. There's more than a little bit of meta in that casting choice, as Grey Ghost was a TV star young Bruce Wayne watched as a boy before becoming Batman. He returns in the present day as a washed-up actor who can't get a role, and while that isn't exactly true of West, it's entertaining to see the young Batman idolizing the original Caped Crusader. In his storyline, he initially regrets ever playing the Grey Ghost, as it left him typecast and unable to find work. That part is true of West, and the writers admitted that they would not have made an analogue of his career without the actor's approval. He sells off memorabilia piece by piece to pay the rent, but it ends up being bought by a dastardly foe who plans to reenact one of the TV scenes for real. This leads to the Grey Ghost and Batman teaming up to solve the crime, uniting the old and the new, and giving Bruce the chance to tell him how much the Grey Ghost meant to him growing up. I'm gonna cry. Number 5. RENEE Montoya. Evolution and character growth doesn't happen all that often for background characters like Montoya. In fact, their steady dependability is often why they're there in the background. Montoya was prepared to break that mold though, and it paid off handsomely. As one of Gotham City's finest, she's been through the ringer. Beginning as a beat cop, she's promoted to homicide detective, but has to face homophobia when Two-Face outs her as a lesbian to her co-workers and family during Gotham Central. She eventually leaves the force because of massive corruption, but she only grows stronger from there. Too good a character to write out, Montoya begins training with the Question, aka Vic Sage, eventually taking up the mantle herself. From there, we see her wrestle with the ethical complexities of her role in Gotham City, making her one of the coolest legacies of BTAS. Number 4. Lockup. Lockup was an interesting villain in the animated series, but it's a shame he only appeared in a single episode. Like the best characters here, he managed to show us Batman, but in a new light. Like the Dark Knight, he just wants to make Gotham a better place, and he too turns to vigilantism to make it happen. However, while Bruce Wayne ultimately loves his city and wants to save it, Lockup calls Gotham an open wound, festering with violence. Yeah, you might want to turn down the Frank Castleisms a bit there, buddy. Before becoming Lockup, Lyle Bolton was a guard in Arkham and had the place running smoothly. However, once Batman discovers he's been torturing the inmates, a big no-no obviously, Bolton is promptly sacked. Following this, Bolton becomes a sort of Punisher-esque vigilante, one who's disgusted that Batman could ever have sympathy for the inmates at Arkham. He's a truly dark figure, and one who transitioned perfectly into the comics following his appearance on the show. Number 3. Condiment King. Condiment King is class. Yes, he isn't an actual villain, yes, he was mind controlled by the Joker to be a villain, but you know what? It's one of those occasions where you kind of wish the switch was genuine. Like, Gotham could do with more Condiment Kings. Way better to get a face full of ketchup and mustard than to be, you know, Joker gassed to death by the demonic clown. Unless, of course, you were allergic, in which case, well, RIP, I guess. Number 2. The Phantasm. Batman Mask of the Phantasm remains one of the finest moments of Batman the Animated Series, marrying past and present to tell the definitive Bat story, and with a brand new character right at its center. The Phantasm is a looming, menacing figure, with a voice not too dissimilar from Christian Bale's infamous Bat growl. The Phantasm is a looming, menacing figure, with a voice that is so genuinely haunting. Outside of her alter ego though, Andrea Beaumont is also Bruce Wayne's ex-lover. A hero and villain in a love story isn't groundbreaking, but this is arguably the best one Batman's ever been involved in. Even without that juicy angle though, she's one of Batman's more interesting foes. Both were born wealthy but are left empty by the deaths of their parents. Both are skilled hand-to-hand combatants. Both stalk around in dark capes at night. It's very clever writing to show how easily Batman could have fallen into that kind of life, had a few things been a little different. And number 1, Harley Quinn. Look, she just has to be number one. Harley Quinn is a firmly established fan favorite. Margot Robbie's recent performances may have sent Harley costumes flying off the shelves for Halloween, but she was iconic long before then. Fantastic in the animated series, where she was voiced by Arlene Sorkin, she went on to steal the show in the Arkham games and had some fantastic runs in the comics. A Harley Quinn romance, mad love, and her work in the many recent Suicide Squad runs over the previous decade spring to mind immediately. The character's Brooklyn accent, combined with her coy yet hyper-confident nature, proved to be a winning formula. Throw in the fact that she's also a victim of the Joker, and you had one of the more sympathetic characters in all of BTAS. What's even better though is watching just how much Harl has grown since making her debut. She's managed to ditch the Joker and become a true independent force on and off the page, kicking ass with Task Force X and spending time romancing with Poison Ivy. You love to see it, folks, you really do. And those were the 10 best Batman characters that didn't come from the comics. Which non-comics characters are your favorites? Let me know down in the comments below. Drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, and be sure to hit subscribe too so you don't miss another upload going forward. As always, I've been Ewan, I hope you're all doing very well, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye!